Commander XYX Vortek of the Galaan Science Armada glared at the holographic projection of the small azure planet with mounting annoyance.
His antennae twitched nervously as his four eyes blinked in sequence, a distinct indication of agitation within his species.
Are you implying, he stated, his voice dripping with irony, that after 3 cycles of meticulously designed viral dissemination, the humans haven't exhibited a single symptom? Not one insignificant mutation? Not even a stuffy nose?
Science Officer Nara Quim shuffled her tentacled appendages uncomfortably. That is indeed the case, Commander.
The BX779 virus has successfully modified the genetic structure of 47 Earth species thus far, yet humans seem utterly immune. Unaffected? XYX slammed his appendage on the console. We've observed rabbits develop armored plating, avians sprout additional wings, fish briefly survive on land, but humans? Nothing.
Sir, if I may, Communication Specialist Japieli raised a clawed hand. Perhaps we should consider that this particular species is atypical.
XYX rolled all 4 of his eyes simultaneously. Thank you for that profound observation, Specialist Plek. Next, you'll suggest water is moist.
The bridge crew fell silent, avoiding eye contact with their increasingly exasperated commander. The mission had been straightforward: evaluate the novel mutagenic pathogen on a pre-interstellar world teeming with life to assess its potential as a tactical asset in the ongoing conflict with the Arcturus-Ed coalition. Earth had appeared ideal, isolated, biologically diverse, and inhabited by a dominant species that seemed relatively vulnerable. Yet, here they were, lurking in orbit behind the planet's moon, witnessing their carefully crafted virus transform everything except their intended target.
Display the most recent human samples, XYX ordered, pacing across the command deck. There must be something we're missing.
The main screen flickered to life, showing microscopic images of human blood cells.
Science Officer Quim narrated as the images changed.
As you can observe, when we introduce the virus to human tissue samples, something unprecedented occurs. Rather than triggering genetic mutations as with other species, the viral components are simply absorbed.
Absorbed? XYX ceased pacing. What does that even entail?
The viral genetic material integrates with human DNA, but instead of causing instability and mutation, it's stabilized and incorporated without any noticeable effect.
It's as if their bodies recognize it as beneficial information rather than a threat.
Medical Officer Drex Tonar, who had been silently observing from the rear of the bridge, spoke up suddenly.
May I offer a hypothesis, Commander? Please do, Doctor. At this point, I'd welcome recommendations from the ship's waste management system if it had any.
Dr. Tonar approached the display, pointing at the human cell imagery.
We've been operating under the assumption that all species would react similarly to the virus, but what if humans have encountered something like this before?
Their genetic structure exhibits unusual complexity and redundancy compared to other Earth species.
It's almost as if.
The doctor paused, clearly uncomfortable with his conclusion.
As if what? XYX demanded.
As if they've been engineered, Commander, or have evolved specifically to incorporate foreign genetic material.
A heavy silence descended upon the bridge. That's impossible, XYX finally said, though his voice lacked conviction. Our scans indicate they're barely in their atomic age. They couldn't possibly possess genetic engineering technology advanced enough to create this type of immunity. Perhaps they didn't create it themselves, Dr. Tonar suggested quietly. The implication hung in the air.
If humans hadn't developed this ability naturally or artificially, then someone else had visited Earth previously, someone with technology far surpassing what the Galaans possessed.
I want boots on the ground, XYX announced abruptly. Prepare a reconnaissance team. We need direct observation.
Sir, Security Chief Mtar Beld stepped forward, his exoskeleton clicking with each movement.
With all due respect, that violates protocol. We're supposed to remain undetected. And we will remain undetected, Chief Beld.
Your team will utilize the morphic adapters to appear human. Standard observation protocols apply: no contact, no intervention.
Yes, sir, Beld replied, though his compound eyes betrayed his concern. I'll lead the team myself, XYX declared. The bridge erupted in protests. "Commander, that's highly irregular. The fleet admiral would never approve."
Regulation 772B specifically prohibits command officers from.
"Enough." XYX silenced them with a shout.
This mission has already deviated from its course. If there's even a remote chance that humans possess advanced genetic technology, or worse, that they've been visited and modified by an unknown species, we need to know. The fate of the war with Arcturus could hinge on it. No one could argue with that logic. The Arcturus coalition had been pushing Galaan forces back for years. A new biological weapon had been their best hope for shifting the balance.
"Prepare a landing craft. Target a moderately populated area where we can blend in.
I want a team of 5, myself, Chief Beld, Dr. Tonar, Specialist PLE for Communications, and Officer Quim.
I'll need your expertise as well."
Quim's tentacles curled in surprise.
"Me, sir?"
"I'm not trained for field work." "None of us are, except Chief Beld, but you understand the virus better than anyone."
"If we're going to determine why humans are immune, I need you there."
"Yes, Commander."
As the others left to prepare, XYX turned back to the holographic display of Earth.
Something about this planet and its dominant species didn't make sense, and he was determined to uncover the truth. 3 hours later, the reconnaissance team was ready. The landing craft, disguised to appear as a meteorological anomaly to Earth's primitive tracking systems, descended toward a region identified as North America. They had selected a settlement of moderate size called Millfield, in a region known as Pennsylvania. "Morphic adapters calibrated and ready," Chief Beld reported, handing the devices to each team member.
"Remember, these are experimental.
They'll make you appear and sound human, but they can't maintain the illusion if you're injured or unconscious."
XYX strapped the small disc to his thorax and activated it.
A strange tingling sensation washed over him as the device scanned his body and generated a human disguise around it. He looked down to see pink, hairless limbs ending in 5-digit appendages. "This is bizarre," he muttered, his voice now emerging from a single mouth instead of his normal speech organs. He examined his reflection in a nearby panel. The face looking back at him was completely alien, a single pair of forward-facing eyes, a protruding nasal structure, and a ridiculous amount of hair on top of the head. "How do they see anything with only 2 eyes?" he wondered aloud. "Apparently, they compensate with enhanced pattern recognition," Quim replied, examining her own human form with fascination.
"Their brains fill in the missing data." Dr. Tonar was studying his new hands with scientific interest.
"Remarkable dexterity with these finger structures.
An efficient respiratory system, though, and their circulatory fluid is iron-based. How primitive." "Key focus, everyone," XYX commanded. "Remember our cover story.
We're medical researchers from a university investigating regional health patterns. That should give us access to human medical facilities without arousing suspicion."
"Landing in 60 seconds, the pilot announced. Atmospheric conditions nominal."
XYX felt an unfamiliar sensation in his temporary human stomach, something akin to nervousness but more intense. "One last thing," he said to his team.
"We have no idea what we're walking into here.
These humans may seem primitive, but something about them has neutralized our most advanced bioweapon. Stay alert, stay together, and for the love of the 7 moons, don't do anything to draw attention to yourselves."
The craft touched down in a wooded area outside the settlement's perimeter. As the team disembarked, XYX couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. "Welcome to Earth," Specialist PLE said with inappropriate cheerfulness. "Try not to get dissected." "Your timing for humor remains impeccable, Specialist," XYX replied dryly. "Let's move out."
They walked toward the lights of Millfield, each step taking them deeper into a mystery that would alter their understanding of the galaxy forever. The team's initial impressions of Millfield were a chaotic assault on their senses.
The air carried hundreds of unfamiliar scents, some pleasant, others decidedly not.
The soundscape was dominated by primitive combustion engines and the cacophony of human voices. "They're so loud," Quim whispered, wincing as a vehicle roared past.
"How do they hear anything important?"
That's assuming they have anything important to say, XYX muttered. They attracted curious glances from locals as they made their way down the main street. Their morphic adapters made them appear human but couldn't completely mask their awkward movements and unfamiliarity with basic human behaviors. "You're walking too stiffly," Beld hissed to XYX. "Humans swing their arms when they walk." "This entire body design is inefficient," XYX complained, attempting to mimic the loose-limbed gait of passing humans. "Two legs? Seriously? It's like evolution gave up halfway through." They located a small establishment called Joe's Diner that seemed to function as a social gathering point. Entering cautiously, they were assaulted by more intense smells and the sight of humans consuming organic matter directly through their face openings. "That's disgusting," Dr. Tonar muttered, watching a human bite into something brown and dripping. A female human approached them, wearing a uniform and carrying a flat device. "Table for 5, she asked cheerfully. The team exchanged glances, unsure how to respond. "Yes, please," XYX finally said, recalling the appropriate phrase from their cultural briefing. The human led them to a rectangular platform surrounded by sitting devices and handed them each a laminated card. "Today's special is meatloaf. I'll give you folks a minute to look over the menu." Once she left, the team examined the cards with confusion. "I believe these detail available nutrition sources," Quim suggested. "Fascinating cultural artifacts. Remember, we don't actually need to consume their food," Beld warned. "The adapters create the illusion of eating, but trying to digest earth matter would be problematic." "Look around," XYX ordered quietly. "Observe interactions, listen to conversations. We need to understand these creatures better." For the next hour, they awkwardly pretended to eat while studying the humans around them. XYX was struck by how casual they seemed about their existence. Here they were, a species that had somehow developed immunity to an advanced bioweapon, and they were discussing trivial matters like sports teams and weekend plans. "Sir," Peely said suddenly, leaning in. "I'm picking up something interesting." "Those humans at the counter, they're discussing a health crisis." XYX listened carefully. Two humans in uniform, local security forces he guessed, were talking in low voices. 3 more cases over in Westridge, Gundel. That makes 15 so far. County Health's got no idea what's causing it. My sister's kid got it too. Doc says he's never seen anything like it. The hospital in Harrisburg is bringing in specialists." XYX glanced at his team. "That could be our virus manifesting in a way we haven't detected." Dr. Tonar nodded. "We need to investigate this hospital." They paid for their uneaten food with the local currency they'd synthesized and left the diner. Outside, Quim accessed a public information terminal, a primitive electronic device the humans called a smartphone, that they'd replicated. The nearest major medical facility is Harrisburg General Hospital, approximately 28 local distance units from here. "We'll need transportation," Beld pointed out. XYX spotted a lot filled with wheeled vehicles. "Those appear to be their primary mode of transport. Can we appropriate one?" Beld examined the nearest vehicle. "Primitive technology. I can bypass the security and activate the propulsion system." "Do it," XYX ordered, "but be discreet." Minutes later, they were moving along a paved road in a stolen vehicle, Beld awkwardly manipulating the controls while consulting the knowledge they downloaded about human transportation. "This is reckless," Quim complained, her tentacles curling anxiously beneath her human disguise. "We're violating at least 17 protocols." "Note your objection in the mission log," XYX replied dismissively. "If there's an outbreak of mutations, we need to observe it firsthand." The journey to Harrisburg was tense. Twice they nearly collided with other vehicles due to Beld's unfamiliarity with Earth traffic patterns. By the time they reached the hospital, a large multi-level structure bustling with activity, everyone's nerves were frayed. "Remember the cover story," XYX instructed as they approached the entrance. "We're medical researchers studying unusual cases. Be vague but confident." To XYX's surprise, their cover worked better than anticipated. The humans seemed programmed to defer to authority, and their forged credentials gained them access to the hospital's research wing with minimal questioning. "I'll need to see the patients exhibiting the unusual symptoms," Dr. Tonar told a human doctor who'd been assigned to assist them. "Of course," the doctor replied. "We've isolated them in Ward B. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. 15 cases so far, all children between 6 and 12 years old. They were completely healthy until 3 days ago." As they walked toward the isolation ward, XYX felt that uncomfortable human stomach sensation again. If their virus was causing mutations in human children, the mission had crossed a line he wasn't comfortable with. Tactical advantage or not, harming developing organisms was against Galaan ethical principles. The doctor led them to an observation window. Inside the ward, several small humans lay in beds, attended by medical staff in protective gear. "What exactly are their symptoms?" Quim asked. The doctor gestured toward the window. "See for yourself." XYX looked through the glass and froze in shock. The children weren't exhibiting signs of illness or mutation. They were glowing. A soft blue-green luminescence emanated from beneath their skin, pulsing gently like distant stars. "What in the 7 moons?" he whispered. "It started as a mild fever," the doctor explained. Then the luminescence began spreading throughout their bodies within hours. Their vital signs are stable, even strong. They're not in pain. In fact, they report feeling amazing and powerful. We've never seen anything like it." Dr. Tonar leaned closer to the glass. "And this began 3 days ago? All at once?" "Yes. First case was reported Sunday morning, and they've been coming in steadily since. All from the same general area." XYX exchanged glances with his team. Sunday morning was exactly when they had released the third variant of the virus into Earth's atmosphere. "We need samples," Dr. Tonar said quietly. "And we need to examine these children directly." The human doctor hesitated. "We're limiting exposure until we understand the condition better, but I can provide blood samples and our preliminary findings." "That would be helpful," XYX agreed, mind racing. This wasn't a mutation in the traditional sense. It was something entirely different. As they followed the doctor to the laboratory, Specialist PLE fell in step beside XYX. "Commander," she whispered, "I've been monitoring local information networks. This phenomenon isn't isolated. Similar cases are being reported across this continent, always in children." "Why only children?" XYX wondered. "What's different about their physiology?" "Perhaps it's not different," Dr. Tonar suggested quietly. "Perhaps it's more adaptable." In the laboratory, they examined the blood samples from the affected children. Even separated from their bodies, the cells continued to emit the faint luminescence. Dr. Tonar, manipulating the primitive Earth microscope with surprising dexterity, suddenly gasped. "Commander, you need to see this." XYX looked through the scope. The human blood cells were unlike any they had studied before. The virus hadn't been absorbed passively as they'd thought. It had been actively incorporated, restructured, and improved upon. "These cells aren't just accepting the viral DNA," Dr. Tonar explained, voice hushed with awe. "They're enhancing it, using it as a template to create something new." "What does that mean in practical terms?" XYX demanded. "It means," Dr. Tonar said slowly, "that instead of the virus changing humans, humans are changing the virus, and in the process, they're changing themselves." "Deliberately?" "Deliberately." "That's impossible," Quim protested. "No biological system can direct its own evolution so specifically." "Apparently, humans can," Dr. Tonar replied. "At least human children can. Their cellular structures are more malleable, more accepting of change." XYX stared at the glowing cells, a chill running through his temporary human form. "Are you saying human children are weaponizing our virus?" "Not weaponizing," Dr. Tonar corrected, "adapting, evolving, and at a rate that should be biologically impossible." The human doctor returned, carrying additional samples. "We've just received reports of similar cases appearing in Europe and Asia."
Whatever this is, it's spreading globally. XYX turned to his team, careful to keep his voice low. We need to return to the ship now. Now!
As they made their excuses and hurried from the hospital, XYX couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something far more significant than a failed bioweapon test.
The humans weren't victims or test subjects anymore.
They were becoming something else entirely, and the galaxy wasn't ready for what they might become.
The return journey to their ship was fraught with tension.
Bell drove recklessly through the night, narrowly avoiding collisions with other vehicles, as the team processed what they had witnessed. "We need to abort the mission," Officer Quim insisted, her human disguise unable to hide the tremor in her voice.
"Notify High Command immediately."
XYX stared out the window at the passing landscape, his mind racing.
"Not yet. We don't have enough information." "What more do you need?" Quim demanded. "The virus isn't working as designed. Instead, it's triggering some kind of evolutionary response in human children.
This goes far beyond our mission parameters."
"Precisely why we can't leave," XYX countered. "If humans possess this capability, the Arcturus Coalition will eventually discover it too. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with." Dr.
Tonar, who had been analyzing the stolen samples on a portable scanner, looked up with grave eyes.
"Commander, these readings suggest the affected children aren't just glowing.
Their cellular structure is reorganizing at the molecular level. Their DNA is being rewritten in real time."
"To what end?" XYX asked.
"I can't be certain without more sophisticated equipment, but it appears they're developing enhanced nervous systems, faster neural connections, improved sensory perception, potentially even telepathic capabilities."
"Telepathy? That's absurd," Specialist PLE scoffed. "Is it?"
Dr. Tonar challenged.
"We've documented telepathic species before.
The Viarians evolved it naturally, and the Arcturus Coalition has been attempting to engineer it for decades."
The vehicle suddenly swerved as Chief Bell narrowly avoided colliding with a large transport. "Sorry," he muttered. "These controls are incredibly primitive." "That's the third near collision," XYX noted. "Perhaps I should drive."
"With respect, Commander, I'd rather crash than let you attempt to operate this contraption," Bell replied with uncharacteristic bluntness. The tension broke momentarily as nervous laughter rippled through the team.
"New plan," XYX announced.
"We'll return to our ship, but we're not leaving Earth orbit. I want comprehensive scans of the affected regions, and Dr. Tonar, you'll analyze those samples with our full array of equipment." As they approached the wooded area where their landing craft waited, Specialist PLE suddenly stiffened.
"Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. Multiple sources surrounding our landing zone." "Humans?" XYX asked sharply. "No. The signatures are too organized, too focused."
She manipulated her scanner.
"They appear to be waiting for us."
Bell immediately slowed the vehicle.
"Ambush?"
"Impossible," Quim protested. "Earth governments don't have technology sophisticated enough to detect our craft's stealth systems unless they've evolved it in the last 6 hours, XYX said grimly.
"Beld, stop here.
We'll proceed on foot and assess the situation." They abandoned the vehicle at the forest's edge and advanced cautiously through the trees. The night was eerily silent. No insects chirping, no nocturnal creatures rustling through the underbrush. "Something's wrong," Beld whispered.
"The local wildlife has been frightened away."
XYX gestured for the team to spread out, advancing in standard reconnaissance formation. As they neared the clearing where their craft was hidden, he signaled for them to stop. The landing craft appeared undisturbed, its camouflage field still active, but surrounding it in a perfect circle stood 12 small figures, their skin emitting the same blue-green luminescence they had observed in the hospital.
"Human children? How did they find us?" Quim whispered.
Before anyone could respond, one of the children turned directly toward their position, despite the darkness and their considerable distance. "We can sense you," the child called out, voice carrying unnaturally through the night air.
"Please come out. We won't harm you." XYX felt a chill run through his human form.
They shouldn't be able to detect us through the morphic adapters.
They shouldn't be able to do any of this.
Dr. Tonar replied softly, yet here we are.
After a moment of tense deliberation, XYX made his decision. Remain in human form. Follow my lead. Be prepared to retreat on my signal.
He stepped out from behind the trees, approaching the circle of glowing children with forced confidence. Hello, he said, attempting to sound like a concerned adult human.
What are you children doing out here so late? You should be home. The apparent leader, a female child of perhaps 10 Earth years, smiled. The expression made XYX's skin crawl. It contained knowledge no child should possess.
We're exactly where we need to be, Commander XYX Vortek of the Galaan Science Armada, she replied, and so are you.
XYX froze mid-step. How do you know who I am?
The same way we knew where to find your ship, another child said, a male with particularly bright luminescence emanating from his eyes.
We can see the patterns now.
All the patterns. The rest of the team had emerged from the trees, forming a defensive cluster behind XYX.
What patterns? Dr. Tonar asked, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding caution.
The patterns that connect everything, a third child explained, gesturing upward to the night sky.
The stars, the planets, all living things, the dance of atoms, and the whispers between galaxies. We can see them all now, thanks to your gift. Gift? Quim repeated incredulously. You mean the virus? That wasn't a gift. It was a weapon.
The children laughed in unison, a sound that sent shivers down XYX's spine.
Intention is irrelevant, the leader said. Results are what matter. You gave us the key to unlock our potential. We've been waiting for something like this for thousands of years. Waiting? XYX echoed. That's impossible. Your species barely understands basic space travel.
Our species, another child corrected, has been shepherded, guided, and occasionally suppressed throughout its development by choice.
By choice? Beld repeated. Whose choice?
Our ancestors, the leader explained. They saw what we could become, what we would become, and they feared it. They built safeguards into our genetics, barriers to slow our development until we achieved the wisdom to handle our potential.
Dr. Tonar stepped forward. You're saying humans deliberately stunted their own evolution? That's contrary to every biological imperative.
Not stunted, the child replied patiently, as if explaining to someone much younger, protected. They witnessed other species destroy themselves upon reaching our threshold, the Viarians, the Hanari, the Canari all gone, consumed by powers they weren't ready to wield.
XYX felt a familiar name. The Canari? That's impossible.
They were a myth, a spacefarer tale from the dawn of galactic exploration. They were real, the child said, as real as you or me. They achieved what we're achieving now, but too quickly, without preparation. The result erased them from existence so completely that you think them merely legends.
How could you possibly know this? Quim demanded.
Another child spoke up.
Because your virus didn't just change our bodies. It unlocked our ancestral memory. We remember everything now, back to the beginning. XYX looked from child to child, their glowing forms creating an otherworldly tableau in the forest clearing. What do you want from us?
Nothing, the leader replied simply.
We merely wish to thank you before you depart and to deliver a message to your people. What message? XYX asked, suspicious.
That humanity is awakening, that we bear no ill will toward the Galaans or any peaceful species, but we will no longer be confined to this world, and we will no longer permit wars like yours with the Arcturus Coalition to threaten galactic stability.
Specialist PLE laughed nervously. Your children. How exactly do you plan to influence galactic politics?
The leader smiled again, that unsettling, ancient expression.
We won't remain children for long. The change is spreading faster than you realize.
By tomorrow, every human child under the age of 13 will begin the transformation.
Within a week, the adults will follow all of them. All of them? Dr. Tonar asked, aghast. Billions of beings evolving simultaneously? Precisely, the child confirmed, a synchronized awakening driven by the catalyst you provided. The barriers our ancestors placed within our DNA have been dissolved. Our potential is unlimited now. XYX felt fear, true fear, for the first time in his career. Not for himself, but for the galaxy. If these children were telling the truth, the balance of power among spacefaring civilizations was about to shift dramatically. You should go now, the leader said gently. Return to your people. Tell them what you've witnessed. Tell them humanity extends a hand in friendship but will tolerate no further attempts to use our world as a testing ground. And if we don't leave? Bell challenged, his security training prompting him to test their boundaries. In response, all 12 children raised their hands in perfect unison. The landing craft's camouflage field flickered and died. Then, with no visible technology or apparent effort, the craft rose from the ground and hovered 10 meters in the air. We could dismantle your vessel atom by atom, one of the children explained calmly, or we could accelerate your ship beyond light speed without the protection of your conventional drives. Neither would be pleasant for your crew. The craft settled back to the ground gently. But we prefer cooperation to coercion, the leader added. It's your choice, Commander Vortek. XYX studied the children carefully, weighing his options. Their demonstration of power seemed genuine, not some primitive trick, and if even a fraction of what they claimed was true, humanity was rapidly becoming a force beyond anything the Galaan Science Armada could handle. We'll leave, he decided finally, but this isn't the end of our interaction with Earth. My superiors will want to establish formal contact, diplomatic relations. We look forward to it, the leader replied with a genuine smile, in time. For now, we have much to learn about ourselves. As if by some unspoken signal, the children stepped back, opening a path to the landing craft. One last thing, XYX said as his team cautiously moved toward the vessel. You said our virus was a catalyst, a key, but why did it affect only Earth's species this way? We've tested similar compounds on dozens of worlds. Because we're different, the leader said simply. Human DNA contains fragments from over 30 ancient spacefaring species. We are, in many ways, the galaxy's memory. Impossible, Dr. Tonar protested. Such genetic diversity would be obvious too. Even rudimentary scans would fail if it was purposefully concealed, another child asserted. Not if our forebears encoded it in segments you dismiss as junk DNA. The portions of our genome you cannot comprehend aren't futile, Doctor, they are merely awaiting the appropriate key. With that enigmatic declaration, the children fell silent, watching with anticipation as the Gatans boarded their craft. Once inside, XYX immediately deactivated his morphic adapter, relieved to revert to his natural form. The remainder of the team followed suit, their alien anatomies reappearing as the human disguises dissipated. Get us to the ship, XYX instructed the pilot. Maximum velocity, stealth systems at peak performance. As the craft ascended, he gazed down at the circle of luminous children through the viewport. They raised their hands in unison, a farewell gesture that seemed both innocent and foreboding. What just transpired? Quim inquired, her tentacles writhing in agitation. Were those truly children, or something merely utilizing their forms? They were children, Dr. Tonar confirmed, examining data from his scanner, but unlike any we've previously encountered. Their neural activity was off the charts, approaching levels theorized but